Good evening and a warm welcome to all the attendees from all over the world. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the CEO's Chair is a unique program where we showcase inspiring stories of successful founders and CEOs. We give you an insight into their mindset and discuss not only their challenges, but also help you understand their definitions of success and leadership. We have another such inspiring story for our 53rd episode today. Prakash Mallya, Managing Director at Intel India. Welcome to the CEO's Chair, Prakash.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sid. Great to be here. Should be fun.
Thank you, Prakash. So, Prakash, I'm sure there's very few people in the audience that don't already know you, but for those that don't, a few lines of introduction. You're an avid reader, a sports fanatic, and a passionate advocate of diversity and inclusion, from what I understand. Prakash was also recently recognized as among the 50 most influential leaders in artificial intelligence in India. So Prakash, we also spoke a couple of days ago, and I'm still getting DMs from people asking me for the recommendations for the Netflix series that you talked about, the podcast hosts that you talked about, the books that you recommended. So you've obviously left quite an impact.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Prakash, I wanted to kind of make this conversation slightly more personal and about your own journey as well, because it's been over 25 years, like you had mentioned the last time, and 21 of them have been with Intel alone.
That's true.
So rolling back the years, Prakash, growing up in Trichy, for those of us who've not been there, what was it like and what memories do you relate to your early days of education and schooling from Trichy?
REC Trichy was fun. Absolute fun. More than anything else, it really built friendships to me. And those friendships have still remained. I still remember just when COVID hit, we got together on a virtual call, and you have great friendships. You realize that when you don't speak to people for a very long period of time, then you reconnect, and the life just starts from as if yesterday. So that is, I would say, you realize it only when you are put in those positions. So great friendships. That is one of my best memories. And I also remember one thing, that the path to REC was not the path that was preferred, so to say. So I obviously, as everyone else, I applied for IIT, did not get it, and ended up being REC Trichy. So you end up going there thinking that, oh, you're not good enough to be at IIT, so you show up in REC Trichy. And that has not been the first instance in my life when I tried for something and I didn't get it. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I have kind of built some part of my personality is challenger or underdog, trying to really push for achieving things that I would have thought I can't achieve. So that has really stayed true to me and for the last several years in my career. So those are two memories. And the third one I would say is, whatever you are taught in engineering schools does not prepare you for life and business. I'll give you a couple of examples. One, most times we are said this is the right answer, but in business or in life, most times you don't get the right answer. There are more than a couple of answers to every question. So that, as well as interpersonal relationships, how important they are, how trust is more important than anything else. Those are the things that are never taught in colleges. So those are some of my observations and thinking and reflections after coming out of the college.
Absolutely, Prakash. And what I remember most is the fearlessness that we grew up with, right? Our risk-taking ability, and not to think of, beyond probably one day or even a week at the very most.
Yeah.
And just jump into whatever we were doing with 110%.
Yeah, agree.
So Prakash, from REC, you moved on to Wipro, which was a comparatively young and up-and-coming software company at that point of time. What was that experience like? Did you get recruited straight out of college?
Yes, it was a campus company. It was a day one campus company. And again, in engineering, I did EEE. I came to realize that I was not built for coding. So I was not geared for that life at all. And then I came to realize that I more like connecting with people. So sales could be an interesting opportunity. I never thought sales would be the career, but Wipro at that time had business development and account executive roles.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they came to campus with, and it was a very prestigious company. I loved working for Wipro, and it's one of the best companies in India because of integrity and how they operate. So many fond memories of Wipro. So that's the way it came about, and I think the time that I spent, again, great relationships and great memories of the company.
That's very good to hear, Prakash. And Wipro is definitely one of those companies that has got its fundamentals right, that has held it, and it's held its way for the last couple of decades that it's been around. Prakash, I hate to stereotype, but engineers aren't really known for their fun personalities, are they? They're known more for their bookish knowledge and the amount of hours that they can put in solving a problem.
You cannot generalize, I would say.
So the point that I was getting at was that for you to make a switch from studying engineering for 4 years to get into a sales role, did you have a mentor or coach that helped you along the way to kind of say that, listen, do this or don't do this?
I would say all my bosses, my first boss in corporate life, I'm still in touch with. He's a great friend of mine.
Okay.
So they've all been great bosses. Devjani Ghosh is another person who I worked for.
Okay.
She is still my mentor. So I would say all along, managers play a very critical role if you seek to understand and learn from them. So yes, absolutely, the managers and bosses I've had have helped me become better, not only in sales, but a variety of different areas that I ventured into during my career. And the other aspect that mentors and coaches or advisors help you with is, one, I firmly believe this, that you have within your heart the answer to every question you are seeking. It's just that you choose not to agree with it. So a coach or a mentor, what they do is they help you get to the answer that you could have got either way, but you just need a debate with somebody else to clarify your thinking. That's the first thing a mentor or a coach helps you with. The second is, it could be a competence level dialogue as well. I'll give you an example. Startups is one of my big areas of focus because it really helps me inspire different thinking within me. And one of my friends now is a person who runs a fund in India.
Okay.
The conversation there is like a mentor in a specific area that helps me clarify thinking about how startups operate, what are the important things that we need to watch for, how could we collaborate, mentor, advise them, things like that. So one is thinking and the other is competence in area that you may not be an expert in. So yes, over my career span, I have great mentors, great advisors, still do, and they have played a vital role in making me better.
That's really good to hear, Prakash, because I guess no man is an island, right? Or no woman is an island. We all, and it takes a village to support one individual.
Yes, indeed.
I think it's very true in each person's career journey as well. So Prakash, talking about coaching, talking about mentoring, how would you define, so it's a two-part question. How would you define your leadership style and how would you say that it's evolved over the last couple of years?
So it's a very important question. It's a deep question that I have thought for multiple years, right? And the answer I would give is the way I think. And most times I think in questions. So over a period of time, I came to a realization, what is most important to me as values? And the answer I came to was, of course, inclusion, very important to me.
Okay.
Challenging the status quo or learning, extremely important. Things like having fun, work hard, but play hard as well. Aspects like just pushing the boundary of what's possible collectively, creating an environment where every opinion matters. All of those are real deep values within me. And then I came to a conclusion that living your values consistently over a period of time is the most authentic way you can show up as a leader. It was not how I started as a leader. It's how I've evolved as a leader. So more and more, what I ended up doing was there are a variety of tools that help you become better leaders, self-awareness tools, whether it's organs assessment or whether it's strength finder. There are multiple tools that you can use, and those give you your areas of strengths, and every strength has got a corresponding weakness. So you assess that, you ask for input from those team members you work with on places where you're doing well, places where you think are your blind spots, and that gives you a great lens to work on. And that's how I have really defined my leadership. So I would think that the environment being open and transparent, every high level of trust within the team matters, high level of inclusion where every opinion matters or listened to is extremely important. Those are the environments that I would like to be part of.
Absolutely.
And that truly is the definition of leadership. And then it's not a destination, it's a journey. So you have to constantly aspire to get better. So those inputs from staff members, those inputs from team members, inputs on self-awareness, all help you to get through that journey and always get better.
Well said, Prakash. And especially in today's day and age where you don't really have the luxury of looking into your team members' eyes every single day in person. I mean, it's over virtual calls. You've got people all across the globe. You've got different cultural aspects at play as well. You're interacting with somebody from Europe to the Far East to North America and so on. And the same words and the same statements are taken completely out of context as well. You mentioned a very interesting thing when we were having an offline conversation the other day, Prakash, where you talked about how an individual or a leader's values should sync up with the company's values as well. Now, if you could elaborate that a little bit further, Prakash, that if somebody is looking to, let's say, start their careers or switch careers, how do you identify a company's values and whether they match your own or not?
It's a very profound question. And I'm privileged to work for companies throughout my career where my values really match the values of the organization.
Okay.
And my singular advice to everybody being a part of the show is either you're a founder founding your own company or you're working for another company. It's extremely important that the values of the company you found or the values of the company you work for are in sync with your values. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I've been part of Intel for 21 years. And I'll give you a few examples of that. I talked to you about challenging the status quo and really pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Intel has been over 50 years in existence. And when you look at some of the innovations we have driven, we have pushed the boundaries of physics. One of the latest GPUs that we launched had 5 process node, 100 billion transistors. It is just incredible power of innovation. So that really syncs very well. I talked to you about inclusion. Inclusion is such an important tenet for Intel. We have done so much on gender equality across the world, including in India, to make sure the leadership pipeline is diverse and underrepresented minorities as well as women are represented in it more and more. So it's very consistent. The other aspect I would talk about is sustainability, the work we are doing on supply chain, the work we have done on reducing the conflict minerals or reducing it to zero in our supply chain. Those are things which really talk about ethics of the company, integrity of the company. And that is, I mentioned to you, trust being very important to me as a value, very consistent with Intel. So those are some of the reasons why I have stayed on and inspired to continue with Intel, because to me, it's one of the best companies ever built.
You're a great brand ambassador for Intel, Prakash.
Thank you.
You spoke about 2 aspects that I'd like to elaborate on a little bit more if possible. One is innovation. So in this day and age of constantly changing technology, emerging technology, you've got agile startups that are coming out with some of the stuff in AI and ML that we've never even heard of. So I just wanted, if possible, for you to elaborate a little bit more about some of the the ways that Intel innovates within the company to keep up with the startups and the emerging tech.
Yeah, yeah. I would say Intel for the last 50 plus years has been innovating constantly. And yeah, if you look at past few months, what we have brought to bear is a great example of that. Our CEO, Pat Gelsinger, has talked about the superpowers which are shaping the world, which is AI, 5G in terms of network, cloud being the service delivery model, edge evolving to where data gets processed at the point in time or place where it is created. And all of these have really converted itself into a set of innovations and products and very cool technologies we are building. I'll give you a few examples of that. The work we are doing,
yes, please,
the space of client PC computing, the 12th generation Alder Lake that we just launched is a great example of innovations that we are bringing to bear on in that space. The work we are doing on data center, the next generation products and platforms we are building on Ponte Vecchio is the new GPU that we talked about a few weeks back in our briefing, and several others, the work we are doing on network, including 5G space. So the innovation across a variety of spectrum is one of the highest I have seen in 21 years that I've been with the company.
Incredible.
Second, how we are bringing it to bear. I'll give you an India context. We are working very closely with customers like Reliance Jio or Airtel on network transformation, including 5G. The collaboration across with the government as well as industry to skill. We have an initiative called AI for Youth, which is a collaboration with CBSE, where we have skilled over 100,000 students, youth, on tools of AI. That's a great example of what public and private partnership or collaboration can do. And then over a period of time, 20 or so years, 22 years, India, Intel has been in India, and our investments have spanned a variety of areas. This is the second largest design center Intel has had globally. That's a great testament to the local talent in India.
Amazing.
So all of this inspires innovation to happen globally as well as in India. And it goes back to our purpose as a company to enrich the lives of every person on earth. And everything that I talked about is very consistent with what we are doing. So that's how we can contribute. And ultimately, the innovation that we are building is going into the hands of innovators, creators, students, kids to really build on top of. That's how you inspire innovation around the world. That's how we enrich the lives of every person on earth. So I'm really, really inspired on the impact that technology can create in this world and what role Intel can play in it.
Absolutely agree, Prakash. And thank you for that. The second aspect that I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more, because I know that you're a very passionate advocate of diversity as well. And it's a little frustrating that we are in 2021 and we are still talking about diversity, and we are still talking about what we can do differently or what we can do better. So as in your opinion, Prakash, again, as men talking to each other, as business owners as well, what do you think can be done differently, or what do you think can be done better as well?
Yeah, it's a question that I have really watched over a period of time. Every question has a why in your life. And my why goes back to, and I've shared this with my team as well. My mom had to go to work in a school. We grew up in Lucknow, and she didn't have a great experience. And I didn't really realize at that point in time what was going on, because she would come and talk about it to my dad. And I was a kid, I didn't realize. And it hit me much later on the impact it had on her, because the working environment was very tough. And if you fast forward it to now, If you look at the gender equality index for India, the data suggests we are not doing that well. There are a lot of initiatives happening, but we still have a long way to go. So I would think we have to really collectively make this a cause to increase representation, because more than anything else, it's an economic question. Because a large percentage of our population, if they are not represented in the economy, there is a growth impact. So that's one aspect that we all need to internalize. The second is you have to really help facilitate in every aspect gender and inclusion of all forms. That means how women or females go through education without disruption, how they enter work life, how they really continue despite the challenges that society puts on it, and how they become senior leaders and inspire others to become so as well. So it's a journey. It's a journey that cannot happen without everybody's support. Intel as a company is committed to that, like I mentioned to you, but we all together as a society needs to really look at it and do something about it on a consistent basis, because this is going to take some time to go fix. And I will tell you one thing, and that it goes back to one of the quotes I remember reading from Serena Williams. She said, the problem with minority will never get fixed by the minority. It's a deep statement.
Very true.
So, that's why men like me and all of us, right, will have to play a role to correct this. It cannot be just done by women. So that's why I'm a passionate advocate, and I talk about it, and I emphasize within the company and beyond the efforts that we can do to make it better.
No, it's definitely a us problem, Prakash. It can't just be a problem that is relegated to just women or LGBTQ or somebody else who's in a minority situation as well. Prakash, shifting gears a little bit, you can't talk about technology without talking about social media as well.
Yes.
And you're one of those CEOs and MDs that is pretty active on social media. Could you talk a little bit about, we've all seen the distinct advantages and disadvantages of being online on social media. And the higher up you go in an organization, the more careful you need to be, because essentially you are a brand ambassador for the organization and the company that you represent. If somebody wants to be online and showcase themselves and the work that they're doing, what is the kind of content that you would encourage for them to share?
I would say it goes back to first values. What do you stand for? What do you think you're good at? We should ask. I've asked the question, that question to myself, and my conclusion is I'm a curious person. I love ideas of all forms. I love looking at business strategy across all forms, including startups and large organizations. I love leadership development, and hence reading about leaders. And in general, other stuff like travel and food. So those are the areas that I really get inspired or engaged on. That's one part. The other part is, of course, you also have to be very clear on one, what is your intent? My intent, I can tell you, my intent predominantly is learning. So social media has really opened up avenues for anyone to go learn from anybody. Think about that. That option was not available to any of us up until very recently. So
very true.
I connect with folks around the world. I connect with young startup founders, watch them talk about things that really question some of your beliefs. Because I'm at a 20 plus years in my career. Some folks are just starting, but they have built some great companies, and they can be great source of learning. So that is one reason why I engage. And then I try and contribute through my learnings some aspects as well that helps you drive a debate and really clarify your own thinking. And of course, Intel is a very significant innovator, and ideas and products and technology that we build is also something that I share. So those are the ways I engage. But I would tell you that one of the biggest things we all should look at is being thoughtful about it. And how you engage on social media should also be determined by every question doesn't have a binary response. The more complex the question, the more different kinds of answers you can arrive at. So it's just not a black or white, yes or no answer. So that's why we all can help to engage in a way that makes the world less polarized. That's an aspect to seriously consider when you are making a decision to be active on social media.
Absolutely, Prakash. And everything is nuanced, right? Everything is,
Yes.
they have shades of gray, and based on the internal biases of the people that you're talking to and the person that you're talking to as well.
Correct.
So I've got a very interesting question from the audience, Prakash, which ties into a question that I was going to ask you. What are, in your opinion, the top skills required today and in the future of the workplace? We limit it to the top 2 or 3, in your opinion.
Oh, I can go on a long time on this, right?
I'm sure.
I would say the conclusion I've come to is number one is learning agility. And when I say learning agility, it is ability to learn new things fast. Anybody can learn things, but if it takes you a very long time to learn new things, then it's going to be increasingly challenging because the pace of change is accelerating. So that's the first skill I would think we have to really sharpen. And how do you sharpen it? You really put yourself in positions which are diametrically opposite to your experience, and things that you haven't done, things that have a high degree of failure built into them. If you consistently put yourself out there, you will be forced to learn on the job or experimenting, and that builds you confidence in taking on new things and learning, and it really builds your brain in different way. That's one I would think. The second is, I cannot overemphasize this, is the need for great high quality communication, highest quality of communication of all kinds, written, verbal, and other types too, because including nonverbal. The reason why that is important is most times, regardless of your job, the ability to communicate complex things in simple ways can make you go the distance in your career. And that again requires active practice, active awareness on how you can do it. I will tell you that I started in Lucknow. I did not have English as the first language at home. Growing up, it was Konkani at home. I went to an English medium. Of course, even in an English medium school, as most of you could correlate, English is not spoken a lot. And English is the communication, right or wrong, is the communication medium for global business. So then I came to a conclusion about that much later, tried to improve my communication skills. And fortunately for me, the jobs that I took on made me really hone and sharpen, whether it is sessions like these, whether it's keynotes, press interviews, that really helped me improve and really invested in it to become better at it. I'm still not good, but I'm trying to get better. That's the second area, I would say. And the third skill, extremely important, is your ability to connect the dots across different things to provide clarity in complexity. Because everybody can show up and do the job which is needed today or tomorrow or day after, or for a month or for a quarter or for a year. But if you as a leader or you as a founder can really game through what can happen in the medium term in a few years, and then wind it back to what you need to do as a company or a team right now to place your company in a better position in future. That can be very powerful. That can be a superpower in your career. So that's why those three skills, I would say, very, very important. It can really accelerate your career.
A couple of more audience questions as we start winding down, Prakash. You talked about startups earlier. So what are some of these startups that you mentor, and in what industry or space are they? If it's something that you can share.
I would think across all, I'm open to engaging with a variety of them. So I'm not limited by segment. I try and engage in areas which are interesting to me. So first, of course, technology led. So areas like network transformation, areas like AI, areas like cloud, those are interesting spaces. And second, in segments that could be interesting in future, whether it's healthcare or whether it is financial services, whether it's content. So those are areas, but of course, I'm really at an early stage. I am not really structured it to a point where I'm saying only this and this and this area. It is more exposing myself with the opportunity to really reach out, and in places where there is mutual interest. And of course, the startups need to find valuable in engaging as well. So both ways, it works out well.
Excellent. And someone else is asking, I believe it is a gentleman called Parag, that we talked about you being an avid traveler and a sports fanatic. What is your favorite sport, your favorite athlete, and a key lesson from sport as well?
Oh, favorite sport, cricket, bar none.
Okay.
I can be termed as cricket crazy. So cricket is big one, and of course tennis being the other. So two of my, you ask me one, I'll give you two. Two of my favorite sportsmen is one, Dhoni. And over a period of time, Dhoni has evolved to being probably the best cricket captain that any team has had. He's the greatest of all time in my view. So that's one. And Roger Federer, who can play better than Roger Federer, according to me. So those are two. And I think there is similarities, I would say, in both these sportsmen on things I admire, right? Of course, like I said, Dhoni is greatest of all time. Roger Federer is also 20 slam. Who knows? Novak could beat the Grand Slam sometime soon. But regardless, he's one of the greatest that has ever played the game. So that is one. The more important to me is how both these folks have carried themselves. The how really inspires me more than their record. And when I say how, it's about not only what happens when they win, what happens when they lose. They are
100%.
Vicious in defeat. How they come across in defeat, despite being fierce competitors, really good lesson for all of us. The second is, and Mahesh Bhupati did a very recently a session for all of us within Intel. And he talked about how using data and past recording, you can analyze sportsmen much more easily than ever before. But now you think about Roger Federer and MS Dhoni, over a period of time, they have, despite the sharp eye for detail on what they do well, they have constantly gotten better. So hence, they have stayed ahead of competition. They have won games where they should have lost, despite the coaches and opponents looking at their game very closely. So those are areas where I feel greatness really shines. There are very few people who can be consistently great for a very long period of time. Very few. You can really count them on your fingertips in any sport. And there is a reason for that. That reason is their method. And that's what is inspiring.
Wow. No, sports definitely has a lot of lessons to teach all of us, Prakash. And I'd encourage anybody who's passionate about sport and wants to know more about cricket and tennis and the people that you follow and idolize, that they should follow you on Twitter, because whenever there's a major competition or a tournament going on, Prakash is almost live tweeting the entire event as well.
Yes.
So Prakash, you also talked about your love for travel. What is your favorite destination inside of India as well as outside of India, if you had to name one?
Oh, I can't name one. It's just too hard. World is so beautiful to name just one. I can give you a few within India.
Please.
There are quite a few wildlife. Wildlife is one of my favorites. So you can go to any of the sanctuaries. We have been to Kabini. We have been to Bandhavgarh. Both of them are great, excellent places. And if you look at the world outside, there are so many things you can really look at. New Zealand is the best when it comes to nature. Morocco is fantastic when it comes to terrain. There is very few countries that gives you canyons to beach to fantastic historic cities like Fez to very beautiful terrain all the way through. Or you can look at places like Croatia. Croatia would be surprising if you haven't been. It's one of the most beautiful countries you can visit. And there are so many other countries I can think of.
Yes, you have 65 others or 62 others that you could definitely talk about.
Yes.
So probably the last question from the audience, and then after that, we are probably going to let you go and maybe share just some last words from your end. This is a gentleman called Sarang, who's asking us, so this he's in his second year of BCom, Prakash, and he doesn't know what he wants to do with the rest of his life. I think like most of us when we were in our first or second year of college, he's asking, how do I figure that out?
I would say, you are at a stage where you have many more opportunities, Sarang, than at least I did. When I went to college, first of all, we didn't know whether engineering was a great idea or not, but we didn't have too many options. You could do engineering, or you could become a doctor, you could do commerce or arts or something. Options were very limited. Here you have many more options. You're living in a country which is one of the most buzzing in terms of innovations and startup ecosystem, or just the young country. The energy is different. So you're living in a country like that, which is it's a privilege we take for granted. That's one. You're really, really young. You cannot take that for granted as well. So those are many things that are going in your favor. So what would I advise you? I would think that at your stage of life, you should experiment. If you're not clear on what you're doing or what your passions are, you should experiment. You should try different things. Maybe if you like joining a startup, you should join a startup. Or if you want to found a company, found a company. Regardless, it will be a fantastic experience. If you want to join a company like Intel, welcome, interview with us or any other source. So you can try different things in the first few years of your career. If you do them well, you can really find out more things about yourself. What inspires you? What gives you a kick? What things you don't generally like? And then you can sharpen your focus to doubling down, I would say, in things that really matter to you. And then you can be exceptional, then you can be unstoppable. So that's how I would say, experiment with everything. And after a few years, dig deeper on things you love or happen to love or observe that you love.
No, I think that really answers Sarang's question really well. And he says, thank you very much, Parag. Prakash. So Prakash, like you, I'm also very bullish on India, and I'm very enthused with the positive energy despite everything that is happening. I just read an incredible tweet from Anand Mahindra earlier today that they had opened up the bookings for their new SUV that they've launched, the XUV 700. I don't know if you saw that tweet from him or not.
Not yet.
But they've opened up the bookings just over the last 2 days. And in 2 days, that is 48 hours, they've received 50,000 advance orders for their new SUV.
Wow.
Which by any standard, by any country, is a pretty incredible number.
Indeed.
So there are a lot of other MDs and CEOs that are sharing your positive sentiments as well, Prakash. So thank you so much for the time that you gave us, the time that you spent with us today. And just I'd like for you to probably share with us a few words or a few learnings from your end, anything that we might have left out or not touched upon that you feel is important for our listeners to listen to.
Yeah, I would go back to things that people ask me even within my team or the leadership or mentoring sessions I do, saying, what do you think is the advice? I would give you three areas that you could really think about. And those are some of the observations based on my learnings, my mistakes, and what I've come to as a conclusion. Number one, trust is everything. Trust is your currency. So, in times of very short term success and times of social media, it seems as though the rules or guidelines of success have changed. They haven't. And a lot of it is built on trust. And trust happens to be on things that you do versus what you say you're going to do. So, that consistency of it, consistency between your saying and doing builds trust. Consistency of your behaviors build trust. And careers are 40 plus. Who knows? The longevity is going to only increase. So in a 40, 50-year career, trust is your currency. So never break trust would be my advice, number one. The second is, in all things in life, at the highest level of any game, it is only a margin of very small things. So when you look at the PGA Tour history, again, being a sports buff, I will give you a sports example. PGA Tour history, a 90 plus year history, or if you look at cricket, or if you look at any game, at the highest level, the margin is less than 2 strokes in golf, as an example. Very close games. You look at any final, it's a very close game. And what really matters is not the big things, it's the small things. And when you look at business, those small things are, do you show up on time? Do you commit and do what you said you would do? When you're not on time, do you give a heads up to people that I can't be on time? When you are not able to hit a deadline, do you give a heads up to people that I will not hit the deadline, and give them a valid reason why you can't? These are really game changers if you do it consistently well, because consistency on boring stuff is what is important. And those are very small things that really matter. And the third advice I would give you is, consistency is the only measure of excellence. Only measure of excellence, because when you look at in any field, you can be great on a day, you can be great for a week, for a year, for maybe 2 years, but the greatest of all time in any field is great for multiple decades. Look at Roger Federer, look at Serena Williams, look at Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Sachin Tendulkar. You can get any example. PV Sindhu, they are all the same, multiple years. They are at the pinnacle of success and pushing to become better. Those are the three things. They are very small things, but when you look at them and convert them into your daily aspiration to become better and better and better than what you were yesterday, you can be unstoppable in your career. Unstoppable.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Prakash. To summarize, trust is everything. The small things matter, and consistency is the only measure of excellence.
Absolutely.
We couldn't have asked for a better quote to end this session on. Thank you again so much for your time, Prakash. Thank you to all the audience members. I look forward to meeting you in person, Prakash, whenever I'm in Bangalore next, or you're ever in Pune. Don't hesitate to just give me a quick call, and we'll make sure to catch up.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Happy weekend.
Absolutely.
Happy Friday, Sid. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Prakash. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Take care of yourself, and wishing you continued success in everything that you do, Prakash.
Thank you. Wish you the same, Sid. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for watching. Looking forward to seeing you again next time very soon. Take care, and thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.